You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the Interactive Interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Everyone, and thank you for joining us here today for our WOW and AXSTV media conference call. We'll be getting started with Q&A in just a second, but we just had a few things we wanted to say. As you all know, WOW Women of Wrestling will be premiering here on AXSTV next Friday, January 18th at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. We have on the phone here today the owner of WOW Women of Wrestling, Jeanie Buss, the founder and executive producer, David Mclane, and AXSTV Fight CEO, Andrew Simon. Hey guys, can you hear us?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Okay,
Andrew's here. Jeanie, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay,
And the press
all
hear
right,
it.
so let's go ahead and get started here. Recording. All right, Jeanie, would you like to start us off here and talk a little bit about how you got involved in women's wrestling and WOW specifically?
When I was growing up, my father, I collected comic books, and my dad would give me Wonder Woman and Supergirl comic books, and he always empowered me to say, you know, you can do whatever you put your mind to. He specifically made me watch the Billie Jean King-Bobby Riggs match, and Billie Jean King became a mentor of mine growing up. I knew David Mclane from our involvement in professional roller hockey, and he invited me to come see the Women of Wrestling, and I'd never seen it before. But as soon as I saw it, I fell in love with it because it made sense. These were strong female heroes taking on their own battles and fighting for what they believe in. Whether it's good or bad, right or wrong, these were storylines that resonated with me, and we decided that the time was right to bring it back in a big way. And this is just something that it feels like this was always meant to be for me. And watching these female athletes, these performers, I'm really blown away at their ability, at their talent, and they deserve a platform to be seen and to be, take center stage, not be the undercard, not be the sideshow. This is their time, and I'm really proud to be part of this team that's bringing it together.
Thank you so much for that, Jeanie. Now let's go to David Mclane. David, will you please just tell us a little bit about the history of WOW and what fans can expect from the inaugural season of WOW on AXSTV?
Well, going into WOW, I can't lead you into it without saying, I grew up in professional wrestling since I was 13. I'm one of those lucky persons that watched it on TV and was able to get involved in it. I started selling photographs at the matches, and that blossomed into me being an announcer for the Midwest Wrestling when it was a territorial business. And I always saw women in wrestling not treated well. They didn't even get the right locker rooms. They got locker rooms without showers. They weren't treated correctly. And I never sat down and wrote anything out. I just saw it organically. And I was fortunate enough to be an announcer, as I mentioned, for one of the matches. And one of the women's wrestling matches, it was always put on as called in our industry the popcorn match or the less than match, a gimmick match. And these two women just tore the house down. People were screaming and yelling, and I took the liberty to say, how would you like to see these two women in a cage match? The crowd went crazy. And I asked my boss at the time, who was a gentleman that was The Rock, the Stone Cold, the Hulk Hogan of that era, Dick the Bruiser, hey, we should put more women on the wrestling matches and build them up as the stars. He told me I must have been nuts out of my mind. No one comes to watch women wrestling. And I said, well, we should start a women's wrestling league. He said, are you crazy? No way. Well, when I hear no, that's the first step to get yes. So I just set out and went to gyms looking for wrestlers and putting up posters. They threw me out like I was a nutcase, and I moved west and put an ad in to start what became called Glow, Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. And we changed how women's wrestling looked and how it was presented, and it was a success. And I was fortunate enough to sell it and then move on to a career with ESPN for 18 years. But I always itched to get back to women's wrestling to really do it correctly. The most aspiring athletic person in the 80s really was Jane Fonda doing videos. And if you look today, every woman today that's in sports is the benefactor of Title IX. They were never told, no, you can't play, you can't do this. They weren't told that's for boys only. And you see it in the athleticism across the board of all women. Every one of them that broke the glass ceiling, from Danica Patrick to Lisa Leslie to, you can't say anything more than Ronda Rousey and know what she did for women in fighting. You put that all into the blender, and it's a new era. It's a new time for women's wrestling, and they're fearless. And Jeanie Buss came to me and said, we've got to do WOW. And we strategically went out to the marketplace. We went from New York, Seattle, Indiana to Florida and hired a marketing firm to meet with wrestling fans and ask them what they wanted in a wrestling program. Because with digital media today, you can watch wrestling everywhere, and most wrestling leagues have some type of a women's wrestling show, meaning they put on one match. Again, it's still the popcorn match. And we found out that the fans wanted three things. They wanted to see more women's wrestling. And they want the thread that went through every city is the fans said they want to see the fun, F-U-N, back in wrestling. And that was a key component. And they wanted a 1-hour show dedicated to women's wrestling, not just more. And they wanted, third thing, to be able to watch it with their families again. So mom and dad can experience what they did when they grew up and their generation before that grew up. Go to the wrestling matches or watch it on TV. So Jeanie, due to her passion to see these women excel and have a platform that they deserve, she did the marketing expertise to make sure that we had all the groundwork done. And we went out and put together our social media platforms first. Then Mark Cuban from Dallas Mavericks and his president, who's on this call, Andrew Simon, they stepped up and they said, let us help you and let us put WOW on the air. And they have a Friday night lineup, the best in the country, a destination spot for anyone that loves fighting. MMA, AXSTV gives you the best on a consistent basis. Boxing and wrestling. They single-handedly took New Japan Wrestling, brought it to America, and have made it into the best wrestling presentation for pure wrestling fans on the air today. And Mark Cuban, we got to take our hat off to him. He had the vision with Andrew to say, let's package WOW with that. Let's put it on a Friday night. Let's give it a 9 o'clock time slot. So next Friday night, January 18th at 9 o'clock, the paradigm of wrestling is going to change. And you're going to have an all and only all women's wrestling show on cable TV, which is really spectacular. So I got into it, Sean, through a passion. And I'm fortunate enough now to be living it with great business partners and some of the best athletes you'll ever see when you watch it next Friday night.
Thank you for that, David. Now let's go to Andrew Simon, AXS TV Fight CEO. Andrew, can you please talk a little bit about how AXS TV became a partner with WOW and how it fits into the overall network?
Sure. First of all, thank you all for dialing in. This is our 15th year of doing MMA and pro wrestling on AXS TV. And, where Sean is going, when you have the opportunity to work with trailblazers I mean, Jeanie Buss is one of the top executives in sports. People say women executive, but I just throw that out. She's one of the top executives in sports altogether, and maybe in any business. She's unbelievable. Then you take, David Mclane, the founder of Glow, one of the original people behind giving women wrestlers the credit they deserve. I mean, he started Glow when nobody else wanted to do it, like David said. Now he brings back WOW, and at a time where women are getting credit across all sports, but in pro wrestling, this is going to be the only hour, the only place to see a nationally televised women weekly wrestling series. And I know David said that, but I think you got to soak that in. There's no other place anywhere in the country to have a weekly series of 1 hour of pure women's wrestling. So, for us, Jeanie and David had also done a deal with MGM and Mark Burnett, and we've had a long relationship with Mark Burnett through the MMA side, and Mark Cuban is also on Shark Tank, as we know. And Jeanie happens to be across the street from our LA office. So we put all these things together. We had great meetings with Jeanie and David and got to hear their vision of how they wanted to bring women to the forefront. We had a wrestling series called New Japan Pro Wrestling that's been voted year after year as the best hour of pro wrestling on television by all the critics out there. And our goal is now to make the women's series with Glow and then WOW today the best hour you can ever see of wrestling on television. So putting all those pieces together, having great partners, it really just came together pretty quick, Sean. And then we taped these series, and we're going to launch it on January 18th to give David and Jeanie the platform for all these women to get the credit they deserve on AXSTV.
Thank you, Andrew. All right, so now we're going to open things up to questions. For those of you participating through the web platform, please feel free to click the hand raise button that you'll see on the program, and I will go ahead and call on you one at a time and unmute you. If you have a follow-up question, you're welcome to ask one. And let's go ahead and start here with Sean Ross Sapp with Fightful.com. Sean, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead with your question.
Wanted to ask Jeanie, it's something I had talked to David about a little bit. With you as the owner of the Los Angeles Lakers and Mark Cuban as the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, what was that like coming together for a project like this, considering that several months or virtually all year, you guys are working against each other?
That's a good question. No, actually, from the very first day that I met Mark, I've had nothing but admiration and respect for him and what he's brought to the NBA when he joined as a partner. And really, if you look at the NBA, the teams really, we are in a partnership, and we think of ourselves as partners, and that's what's allowed the NBA to become the league that it is today under the leadership of Commissioner Adam Silver, is that we look at it as a partnership amongst the teams as well as the players as our partners. So this collaboration is, to me, it makes a lot of sense, but I can see maybe from the outside, wait a minute, the Mavericks and the Lakers are competing on the floor. But we have respect for each other, and I really I've enjoyed working with him and Andrew Simon and the Access TV crew on this project, and I appreciate the opportunity that they have given us to have a platform to showcase these tremendous athletes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for that, Sean. All right, our next question here comes from Jim Barcelone with the Miami Herald. Jim, would you like to ask your question now?
Thank you. Jeanie, being that the Lakers, you're the owner of the Lakers as well, and I'm wondering, because LeBron James is a big wrestling fan, is there any chance of him or even Magic or any of the Lakers attending shows or getting involved in the ring or even behind the scenes?
They would be dream partners to have involved in WOW. I think once they watch it on Access TV, then maybe we could have a conversation. But so far, I have not had those conversations with either of those gentlemen. But I think once they see it, they're going to fall in love with it just like I did.
And I also had a question for Andrew.
Yeah.
Andrew, this is an 8-episode series, if I'm reading correctly. What will it take to do more in the future? And do I have that right with the 8 episodes?
You do have it right. With the launch, the 8-episode series, and we're expecting to shoot new episodes shortly after. Of course, we want to see the reaction and have everybody blow it out of the water and everybody tune in. So my anticipation is we'll be shooting again in the first quarter, additional episodes. So I think stay tuned for that next announcement. But, first we wanted to make sure everybody loves it as much as we do, and then go forward to announce a much bigger, longer, continual series after that.
And lastly, David.
If I can chime in on Andrew's comment there, we sat down with Andrew and discussed how do we properly position WOW, and they have done an unbelievable job in launching New Japan Wrestling, and we sort of took their model, if you will, where they took older programming, brought it in, and then eventually grew New Japan into, actually, they came here and did several events last year, 2 of which I know sold out in the Long Beach Arena. And we wanted to methodically do that also. Slowly bring it out, methodically bring it into the marketplace, and listen to the fans. I want you to emphasize that, because that's how this all started. We relaunched WOW because we went and met and listened to the fans. And you can't knock what AXSTV has done with New Japan, and it's a smart way to do it so you have a brand that grows properly to the liking of the audience. And go ahead, I'm sorry to have interrupted you.
That's okay. No, Dave, thank you. David, also, lastly, will WOW be like Glow with the campy segments and also the wrestling, or will it be a different presentation?
It's a different presentation. There's clearly a nod to Glow with respect to immediately off my head. I can think of one of the characters, Razor. She has fabulous makeup that was an invention of Glow. It definitely has fun in it, which is resonates with Glow fans. But no, it's more sport than camp, that's for sure. I didn't actually like the direction Glow went in the end with too much camp. And but the biggest differentiator for WOW in the marketplace is we are targeting, yes, the 500 million global wrestling fans worldwide who like to see women's wrestling. But we're also cemented in female characters and story. And we open our audience and our programming to newcomers, women, which typically are not thought of in wrestling presentation. And our market position, I don't know, it's our forefront. It's our value proposition, Bill. It makes us different from every other wrestling presentation in our competitors. It's how we develop our product, how we develop our stories. Everything ultimately is our content, and it's driven 24/7 by powerful women. And I think that's the thought place where we are. That's the connection. Fun, colorful characters. We're superheroes first, villains and superheroes. Women second, and that makes for a great presentation and something I think will resonate with the fans.
Thank you all.
All right, thanks for your question, Jim. Next, we're going to go to James Walsh with Wrestling Epicenter. James, go ahead and speak.
Hi, guys. It's a pleasure to talk to you. I'll be honest. Mr. Barcelona asked one of my questions, but I was going to bring up to Miss Buss. I spoke with Tessa Blanchard last week to promote an Impact Wrestling pay-per-view, and as much as we talked about Impact, she kept bringing the conversation back to WOW because she's so impressed with how the product came out. Could you speak to the quality of human beings these women are and how unbelievably prepared they are to promote the product outside of even when maybe you're expecting them to?
I am, I'm such a super fan of these women, especially Tessa. As soon as I met her, she lives up to her nickname. She's amazing. And really, I think it's a testament to David Mclane and how the women have been cast, how he does a search to find the best athletes. And, he can speak more to how the characters are created. I'm such a fan that I kind of get blinded by the storylines, which it makes it really enjoyable for me. But these are quality women who are dedicated athletes who have spent their life dedicated to being the best athlete that they could be. And I find it unfortunate that because of Title IX, there's so many great female athletes that there aren't enough places for them to showcase their talent. We've got women's tennis and the women's basketball league and the WNBA, but there's not enough places for these women to shine and take center stage. So I think you'll see the dedication, the professionalism, the performance capacity of our athletes. And, that speaks also to who they are as people because they've worked hard and they deserve this opportunity to be seen by the largest possible audience.
All right. And I did have one more question for Mr. Mclane, if I could.
Yes.
I was a big fan of the original WOW, the WOW Women of Wrestling that did the Unleashed pay-per-view with the great Bobby Heenan. And you were the commentator for that one as well. You were a big part of that. Is this show, it's kind of a rehash of the question that Mr. Barcelone asked, but is this show going to be anything reminiscent to that, or is it more of a serious approach?
It's a serious approach. The characters that are presented all derive from who the person is. We have a wrestler named Princess Aussie, and she was born in Australia. And for her mother to be able to feed her and keep the family together, she literally had to move to Trinidad and take a job as a teacher. And Princess Aussie, whose name is Simone, had to be raised literally by the tribe in Australia. And when I heard that story, I said, okay, tell me what's the most unique thing of growing up within a village with tribe members raising you. And she said, oh my, we would dance, and I was the only outsider, not a member of the tribe, that was allowed to participate in their ceremonies, etc. Well, from that, we bring in a group of dancers that are in the same costume and paint, etc. And she pays homage to that. So each person, we have a wrestler named The Beast, and only Andre the Giant I can remember, when he stepped over the third rope, you knew you were seeing a phenom. All the other superstars, from Hulk Hogan to The Undertaker to Steve Cold Austin to The Rock, they developed into their personas and superstardom. But Andre the Giant was a star the second he stepped over the rope. We have that in WOW. Her name's The Beast, and she's going to debut in the first match on January 18th at 9 o'clock on Access. And she literally, when she leaps over that third rope, jaws will drop, and you're seeing a special athlete, a phenomenal athlete. And one thing we're doing in WOW that's different, and it's a take from the Olympics. How come every time the Olympics come on, we get interested in certain Olympic performers and what they're doing in their sport, going for the gold? Well, they give you a package on television where you get to meet them. And we're doing that within the WOW programming. We're showing you, we're pulling the curtain back. and showing you who these performers and wrestlers are. And they will resonate with fans. Fans will either want to stand up and cheer them, and in some cases they'll want to stand up and boo them. But we're doing that, which has never really been done in a wrestling show ever before. So you're going to meet these wrestlers, these women. And I think if you look at the Netflix series, Glow, that's what's resonating with so many people that love it and have allowed it to go into its third season on Netflix this summer, is that the producers of that program have showcased the sisterhood of those women that even in the 80s went into the ring to wrestle for Glow, and that's resonating with today's audience. So we're trying to bring that to you versus comedy sketches, and it will enhance your watching of their actual matches and their feuds. So that's the difference, and that's what we're going to be doing.
All right, thank you, James. Our next question will come from Tim Fioravanti with ESPN. Tim, go ahead and take it away.
Sure, thanks, Sean. But my first question is for David. Could you compare the appetite and the audience between when you first helped launch Glow to the current environment of wrestling that WOW is entering?
The appetite is increased to see women's wrestling because they've been exposed to it. They've been exposed to even starting with Ronda Rousey and MMA fighting. Before Ronda, anyone thinking of a lady jumping into that ring and doing MMA fighting, I don't even think it existed. And she changed that paradigm. She changed that status quo. You had two female race drivers. I know Janet Guthrie was one of the first, but you had two female race drivers in the Indy 500 this year. No one even mentioned it because it was commonplace. What's changed is they know that these wrestlers are athletes. They know Tessa Blanchard is a student of wrestling. They know Santana Garrett grew up at 5 years old as a gymnast. And so what's changed is a recognition of who the women are and their athletic prowess. And never have I been asked in the last 2 to 3 years, is it oil wrestling? Is it mud wrestling? And in the 80s, that's all I asked. I noted earlier in today's commentary, Jane Fonda was the big thing in the 80s. I mean, she was considered an athlete prowess doing the videos. Well, look at today. You could just go down the list of athletes that are females, and they're breaking ground. And Jeanie Buss and AXSTV are changing the status quo by giving you an all-women's wrestling show dedicated for women wrestling. So there's the big difference.
Thank you. And my other question was for Jeanie. Coming from, obviously, a sports background, can you tell me a little bit about, after doing your due diligence and research, what made stepping into this marketplace, this industry, so appealing to you?
It was important to me that women athletes have an opportunity to perform and earn a living. And, as I said earlier, there's, women's tennis, the WNBA, figure skating, but there just isn't enough opportunities that, for the athletes that, we have so many women who participate in college athletics now through scholarships and other programs that have, they're dedicated athletes to earn that scholarship. But now what do they do when they graduate? A lot of them go overseas to play in the different professional leagues overseas, soccer, volleyball. But, there just isn't enough opportunities for women athletics. And this, I felt, seeing the strong female characters stand up and fight their own battles as opposed to running and going to be saved by a man if they have a problem. It's conflict resolution, good versus evil, all taking place in the ring. And as I mentioned, when I was young, something that influenced me heavily was the battle of the sexes between Billie Jean King and Bobby Riggs. And Billie Jean King has been a role model for me and many women about, standing up for what you believe in, taking on any opponent. And I think those messages are important for women of all ages. And this was the right vehicle. These were the right partners, and it all came together. And I couldn't be more proud to be partners with David Mclane and Mark Cuban and Andrew Simon at AXSTV, as well as MGM television, giving us opportunity and advice and kind of helping us present our programming. This is not something that we came up with overnight. This has been years in the making, and I am still blown away at the level of competition, the characters, the performance ability of these women, and they deserve an audience, and this is the right vehicle, and this is something that I'm extremely passionate about, as you can tell by my just the things that I'm saying. I feel like this is like this is where my life has headed, since I was young, since my dad gave me the Supergirl and Wonder Woman comic books and telling me that women, how powerful women can be and that women can do anything. And this is just another step in that direction.
Thank you very much.
If I could add to what Jeanie just noted, one of your members today just mentioned they spoke to Tessa Blanchard last week, respectful of her pay-per-view last Sunday night, I believe it was, from Nashville, and she kept coming back to WOW. And you just heard Jeanie why she's engaged. We were asked once, what's the goal for WOW? And there's a lot of them, from merchandise at major retail stores will be one of our big business goals. Live touring and presenting WOW Live across the country is another thought. And we're just about to do a live VIP experience for our fans, which will start up in April in Los Angeles. We'll make an announcement soon. But one of our goals, and why Jeanie's enthusiastic and why Tessa Blanchard was excited, is to us this is even bigger than just wrestling and putting on a show. We're passing a torch. We're passing a passion to these women. And Netflix touched on it, but believe me, there's such a command to want to be in wrestling from aspiring women. We have wrestlers 2 to 3 that are 18 years old. They signed their contracts with their parents to 42 years old. We have the most diversified talent base from every nationality, size, weight, country of any wrestling organization. But back to why it's important and why we're all engaged. We've got talent on our, 2 wrestlers that interact with Access TV. They handle our social media platforms. They handle TV scheduling. They handle the live arena booking. Tessa Blanchard is moving physically. She's already shipped her car from Florida to Long Beach, California. And she and our trainer, Selena Majors, are opening up the first ever all-female women's wrestling training school in Long Beach, California. So there's a dedicated place for women to learn this craft and art. We have a goal not only of incorporating the talent into our working of this company, but we're teaching them about 401ks and how to save their money and how to invest it. And one of our biggest goals is when Jeanie and I are a little older and grayer, some of the talent becomes management in this company. And that's powerful. You look at LeBron James, you look at Kobe Bryant. They're not just basketball players. They're businessmen. And that started with the president of operations from the Lakers, Magic Johnson. Jeannie's dad brought him to L.A., and he schooled him, taught him, handheld him. And you got to give credit to Irvin Johnson for asking for the help. How do I become more than a basketball player? And that's one thing we're doing in WOW. How can they become more than a woman wrestler? And we're very proud of that also. And that's what we hear Tessa Blanchard talking about WOW Women of Wrestling, even when she's on another event that has nothing to do with WOW, because it's in their passion now to make WOW succeed.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Tim. Okay, next we're going to go to Kristen Ashley with Diva Dirt. Kristen, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay, good, thanks. So my first question can be directed towards everyone. Traditionally, I've read reports where your audience is, the majority of it is adult males. Being a women's wrestling promotion, you obviously want to dedicate some of this to a woman's audience. So how do you plan in going forward to really target women and girls for an audience?
Well, I'm going to jump in quickly. First off, yes, traditionally wrestling, whether it's live or on TV with other companies, is target-based toward a male audience. And even though WWE's male audience is older, it's still driven male audience. But we have all the numbers and the facts from who's tuning in on our social media platforms or website and who's buying tickets at our live event. And the first thing that MGM noticed when MGM came to our live events is they were blown away with how much of a family audience we have and how many moms we have that are bringing their daughters. They've never seen that. They're the producers of Lucha Underground. They've gone to other wrestling shows. We have a family-based audience between 7 and 15 that's strong. Yes, we've got a male audience, 32 to 46, that's about, 55%, 60% of our audience. The other is female. And I believe what's going to resonate with females and young teens that are girls is we're 24/7, as I mentioned, all day long, women, running a company for women's wrestling full time. And by doing that, we're able to do those little small marginal gains that provide a better production, better characters, better storylines, the best athletes, and allow the feuds to take place on center stage, all women. Jeannie mentioned it. We don't have storylines where the woman is in distress and then a man saves her. We don't have that in WOW. We don't have a situation where girls are celebrating someone's birthday party and they ask the girl, "What's your gift?" You go, "Oh, I hope it's a wedding ring. If I don't get a wedding ring, I'm going to kill myself." What a message to send out to women and little girls. We did an event at Universal Studios. They called us up and said, "Would you come up here and be in a booth? The event is for breast cancer." We came up. We had 4 women wrestlers in a booth at Universal Studios, and the line was knee-deep. Now, yes, it was for breast cancer event, but it was moms with their little daughters, 9, 11, 12, 13, standing in line for 30, 40 minutes to get their photographs taken with the WOW superheroes. On a marketing perspective, that's when I knew we've been doing the right thing. We're sending out the right message. And I think we're successful in that because we're not banging anyone's head over with a hammer saying female empowerment, female empowerment, female empowerment. We don't have to do that because there's never been an evolution or revolution with what Jeannie and I have been doing from day one. We've always been about women's wrestling and women's empowerment, so we don't have to beat the fan with it. As such, they gravitate to it and they see it on their own. And once again, that's why that Glow Netflix series is so popular. they see that sisterhood. They see that empowerment. It doesn't have to be said or told. And I think that is how we're growing already, not going to grow, growing and getting a female-based audience that's watching and connecting with WOW. Now, we're on AXSTV, and typically fighting, MMA fighting and boxing and wrestling is male. I think they're going to see an uptick in the female audience starting to watch Friday night and seeing WOW. So we're already doing it, and we're just going to keep doing what we're doing because we're doing it correctly because women are connected to WOW.
And let me just on that. Well, just let me add that we want everybody to be part of our audience, men and women. Like we want it's inclusive. It's we want people who enjoy wrestling to watch our show. But I think there's been a failure in our country to have professional women's sports be available for women to watch. So we're trying to change that landscape and give professional athletes an opportunity to be part of a platform that we just haven't had that opportunity to grow a women's audience. And so hopefully this will be the beginning of all that.
Thank you.
I'll chime in. We're talking about, the ratings piece and men and women. Clearly, the success of Glow on Netflix and being a female skewing show as well with Glow on Netflix. You take a look at that, and then you take a look at the early marketing we put out. We kind of tried to tie into that a little bit with the color scheme, a little bit on the early messaging to say, hey, this is a show because more women than ever are interested. Having watched, even anecdotally, all my friends that have watched Glow on Netflix, men and women, are so much more interested in what's going on WOW because now they think they get it. They've seen the camaraderie. They've seen the sisterhood. They've seen what happened on that Netflix show. So I think you'll see more women viewing this than ever before.
Thank you. My second question, again, could be towards everybody. We talked about Tessa Blanchard being from Impact. Is there going to be any more talent sharing in the future from like Shimmer, Stardom, those sorts of programs?
Yes, and we have Kara Hogan, who's an independent wrestling star. I met her, and I met her, and boom, I said, "You've got to be fire. You've got a passion and a fire as soon as you meet you." We have Jessica Havoc, who wrestles on the East Coast and all up and down the coast on an independent shows, and she's the monster of madness in WOW, Jessica Havoc. We have Amber O'Neal, who, of course, wrestled with Santana Garrett as a tag team partner, and she's under the influence of the fabulous Lana Starr, who's taken her from the countryside of the Carolinas and taken her over to the Beverly Hills Hotel, taken her down to the Wilshire Hotel, taken her to some of the finest Botox doctors in Beverly Hills, and just taken her shopping at Tiffany's and every other store and turned her into Beverly Hills Babe. So, yes, we're going to have several independent wrestlers along with that come right out of our wrestling school in Long Beach, homegrown WOW talent, I call them, just like the Beast when you see her step into that ring, so that aren't on the independent wrestling scene. So it's a blend of the best people that are wrestlers in WOW. And I mention that because when Tessa Blanchard joined WOW, our trainer had told me about her for 4 years. Tessa Blanchard, you should see her. And I said, well, we're not going to hire her just because of her dad's famous and her grandfather and her stepdad. And I fortunately ran into her at a live show and was able to sit down and meet with her. She's as great a person as she is a wrestler. And so when I left from meeting her, I said, okay, we're going to hire Tessa Blanchard. And she had just signed a contract with Impact for 2 years. And due to their generosity, we were able to work out a deal whereby she could perform also in WOW full time. So we're looking for not just great wrestlers, but also great people. And that's what we have in WOW.
Okay, and then my last question. There's 35 women on the roster. Is there only going to be the one belt, or do you guys plan on adding belts to the promotion?
There's only. I didn't hear the question clearly.
I'm sorry.
Are we going to add new talent?
Add new belts and new titles? As far as I can tell, at least, there's only the one title, and there's 35 women on the roster. Yeah, will there be like tag team? I know in the past you've had belts for tag teams.
Yes. One, we're gonna engage the tag team championships again. It's been vacant for a while, and we can't just organically create. It's got to be an authentic creation of enough performers that are going to be tag team partners to initiate that. That's what I'm waiting for. And right now we only maybe have 2 teams that could be tag team partners. We're looking to bring in Sue Young to team with someone from WOW, and that would be 3. So we've got to grow that potential division. But respectful of your other question, are we going to increase the number of championships? No, because it dilutes it. You could create a TV champion, an independent champion, a heavyweight champion, a light heavyweight champion. There's so many champions in some other wrestling leagues, you don't even know who the champion is. We're not going to do what boxing has done and what some other wrestling leagues have done. We're going to stay with one championship. It's very easily understood, and it really means something. If you're the WOW champion, it represents something to the public and within our own company. It represents you're the best. So we're not going to dilute it by creating 4 or 5 different championships.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Kristen. Next, we're going to go to Bill Pritchard with WrestleZone. Bill, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Good.
All right. So I first had a question for Jeanie. One of the bigger announcements this week was with All Elite Wrestling and the Khan family's involvement. And seeing how both you and Tony have cited your passions for the wrestling business, are there any takeaways that you can maybe talk about coming from the sports world to the professional wrestling world and why it's been successful for you and can be for them?
Who was the person that you mentioned? I just didn't hear it. Sorry to interrupt, Jeanie. Who was the person you just mentioned that got into
the Khan family, David?
Yeah, Shahid and Tony Khan.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I can't speak for them, but being around sports my entire life, I like to see the best in the world, and I have seen the best in the world, luckily, in the position that I've been in all different sports. So this just kind of fits all the, marrying sports and entertainment and bringing in the best and showcasing the talent and letting them put on a show.
Okay, and then I had another question.
I could speak a little to. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go finish. I could wait.
I was going to say, obviously with AEW and AXSTV's involvement with New Japan and Shaw and Tony's move with All Elite Wrestling, it's never been a more exciting time with what's going on in the pro wrestling world. You have the Jeanie Busses and the Mark Cubans and the Khan family with the NFL and soccer owners involved. So clearly the opportunity, and you take a look at the deals WWE made this year with Fox, there's never been a greater time to be in the wrestling business, that this is the most exciting time. And then the niche in the area where we're going to really dominate is in the women's wrestling side. Because this, I know All Elite announced yesterday, what they were doing, and I think they announced with Brandy and one other wrestler with Britt. And we really are trying to capitalize on that women's wrestling area and make it a place where women feel comfortable and can excel and be the main event. They won't be the third or fourth down the card. So I hope that answers that part on the Khan family.
Yes. And then I had a question. for all three of you, I guess. Televised wrestling's been around for a while, and there's been several seasons of WOW so far. Are you looking to present the show or women's wrestling in a more unique way, considering streaming is taking on more of an importance today?
Well, we're going to continue to build out our social media platforms and continue to deliver content digitally. Even AXSTV recognized the importance of that and provided in our agreement that we can take sections of the content that's even aired on Access and market it digitally. So they had a understanding of the necessity to continue to build out ourselves digitally. And the reason it says we've had seasons is because we presented them that way online digitally to slowly and methodically bring the brand back. But Access TV is a coup to the extent that Jeanie and I have wanted a major platform to showcase WOW. So for now, that's the key component, making sure that the product's the best for Access TV, and then step back a second and continue to grow the social media and the digital platforms.
All right, thanks for your time.
All right, thank you, Bill. Next, we'll go to Nick Hossman with Wrestling Inc. Nick, go ahead and take it away.
Hi, guys. This is Nick. Yes, thank you so much. I'll throw this out to everybody right now, piggybacking off of the AEW stuff. One of the hot topics coming out of their rally the other day was the topic of health insurance for their performers. Is that something that's going to be offered to WOW? I know David was talking about giving them 401k advice and trying to create a better environment for them.
With each of our wrestlers is already and has always been insured. So unlike any other wrestling organization, we have full coverage for the talent if they get injured, and many of the performers have appreciated that and said thank you to Jeanie Buss for that. And one thing Jeanie demanded, she demanded it because I come from a wrestling world, and I basically said, hey, there's no other wrestling organization that does this. And Jeanie says, I don't care. We're changing the status quo, David, and I'm going to make sure our talent is protected. And so we already do it. And we've been doing it from day one due to Jeanie's concern to make sure that the talent is protected.
Great. And I guess my last question I would have for David, also piggybacking off that, I know you talked about how WOW is going to be showcasing women right up front, but AEW has had talks about, what is their TV deal going to look like? Has there been any discussion between Access and AEW about maybe adding them to the lineup that's very strong already on Access?
That's an Andrew question.
I should take that one. I'll take that one, David. Obviously we have a strong partner in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and with their announcement too that they're, coming to Dallas this year to the American Airlines Center. With AEW, they're in talks, I believe, out there for television deals. But currently, we are not looking to add AEW to the roster, but we'd be open to listening. But our first priority would always be to our current partners who've been good to us. So. At the current time, we are not looking to add AEW.
Okay, cool. Thank you guys so much.
Yep.
All right, thank you for those, Nick. All right, our next question comes from Renee Martinez. Renee, are you there?
I am here, calling on behalf of the Wrestle Talk podcast. Thank you for having me on.
Of course, take it away.
All right, thank you. I guess I have one question for each individual. Ladies first, like my mama taught me so many years ago. Jeanie, just a big, huge fan of basketball since I was a little kid. I was blessed to grow up down in South Florida, and many, many times I had an opportunity to go to the Heat games, and especially around the time of year where the Lakers came into town. So thank you for providing so many years of wonderful entertainment for me as a child and obviously now through my adult years. So I guess my first question would be to you. Considering the fact that you have been around the world of entertainment for so many years, I'm guessing somewhere along the lines, maybe back in the forum days, you had an opportunity to go or lock into professional wrestling to a certain extent, seeing as you do have an affinity for it. do you have any memories that you can share with us from your formative years, maybe going and seeing Hulk Hogan, or, you know, maybe something you saw on TV that maybe stuck with you that allowed you to kind of continue to develop this passion and love that you have for professional wrestling?
Yes, I can talk about Cyndi Lauper and Girls Just Want to Have Fun, and her music video that featured Captain Lou Albano, and you know, just how wrestling has always been fun and exciting and over the top, and, you know, full of colorful costumes, and you know, so it's always been something that you know, had a place in my heart. And you know, to now be on this side of being a promoter and supporter of WOW Women of Wrestling, it's a dream come true for me. And you know, I expect this to you know, hopefully inspire another generation, just like I was inspired back in the 80s.
I'll tell you what, I have 2 little girls, and I thank you on their behalf, because now we can sit down and watch pro wrestling together as a family, and it's going to be females first. I'm very excited about the details of the programming that I've heard about so far, and thank you. So my following question is for David, which, by the way, David, thank you for joining us last night. I know your schedule is super hectic. The show was fantastic. The feedback from our fans was tremendous. So I want to go ahead and follow that question up with one to you. Seeing as you did decide to take the time to join us last night on the Wrestle Talk podcast, I'm curious, what is the level of commitment from you and everybody else over at WOW to continue to diversify the media that you're using to expose fans to the product? I can tell you from personal experience, we've knocked on some big doors in the pro wrestling business, and we've been turned away because you do use primarily a podcasting format. You guys seem to be taking a little bit of a different approach. Is that something that you can say with confidence that you're committed to continue to doing and using alternative forms of media to promote WOW?
Yes, and that also has to go a nod to AXSTV. Andrew Simon afforded us the opportunity to bring AXSTV's PR division on board with us, Sean and Cindy, and you couldn't have met better partners and PR people. They had an affinity and a knowledge and a passion to grow WOW that I haven't seen. I've done on several television shows. I mean, geez, over 400 hours of TV programming with networks putting in money but not putting in passion. And AXSTV brings passion to the table. And they actually opened up my eyes to using the podcast and the different forms of media. And I think it's tremendous in the leadership and the guiding that their PR firm has done. And so I don't take credit for having that vision. I take credit to AXSTV for opening my eyes to it. So to your question, are we going to continue it? Yes. And I think, you know, podcasts like your own and all the members of the wrestling press that are on this call today are vitally important to growing WOW. No pun intended. We're David versus Goliath, not only in terms of other wrestling companies with billions to spend on their product, but all in our other entertainment fractions. So we need the support of the fan base. Well, the fan base lives within the communities of these social media digital platforms. So AXSTV has exposed us to that, and we're so fortunate to benefit from their leadership.
Well, absolutely, and that's very exciting for me and obviously the listeners of our show to know that this isn't just a one-time deal because you guys are getting ready to kick off. We can definitely look forward to more conversations with you and many of the superstars at WOW. So I'm very thankful for that. And my very last question is for you, Andrew. We heard it be spoke about just a few moments ago, but I'm curious, as time goes on, can we look forward to potentially seeing some of the stuff that we're seeing currently on Access pop up somewhere, YouTube, Netflix, Hulu, similar to what we see some of the other programming on television doing. Even primetime shows will pop up the next day on Hulu, for example. Is that something you guys are looking to target within, I guess, the initial phases of the rollout of WOW?
Well, I think in the early phase, we'd love people to watch on Access TV. We are a TV network. We love people to early on get it on us. But in the long term, Jeanie and David have the global rights to make this go wherever they want around the world. So they can put it on any platform they want around the world to get this to be a global phenomenon, to get the women the global recognition they deserve. So I do think you'll see it in a lot of different forums, and you may see Access TV in different forums over time. So, maybe we'll be in different over-the-top forums, but today you can get us on the Sling and the DirecTV Now and the Philos and all the OTT services out there. So you'll continue to see us expand our presence wherever people want to view. That's where Access TV wants to be. And, our goal is to have WOW get as much viewership in as many platforms as possible over time.
Awesome. As a Sling TV subscriber, thank you, because I already watch Access every Friday and Saturday night with my wife. So I guess what you're saying is set your DVRs, guys. Access TV starting next Friday night. Thank you guys for your time. I'll continue to listen.
Thank you for the promo.
Let me ask you
Appreciate
something.
it.
I hope the superheroes, and I've been complimented on them, that they're engaged in social media and they're even answering questions from the fans. Have you found that to be accurate?
Yes. Thank you for asking that, David. Absolutely. I think I mentioned it when we were talking yesterday. The engagement just from some of the advertisement, the posters, the links that we sent out prior to your appearance on the show, many of the superstars engaged, shared, commented. And for someone such as myself, I mean, there's nothing better, because I still, before anything else, consider myself to be a fan. And to have the superstars take the time to engage, to take the superheroes to take time from their busy schedules as they train and prepare for this, to want to re-engage with the fans that really ultimately make the brand what it is, I think is fantastic. And I really do hope that never changes.
Well, I think it won't, because they're doing it all out of passion, and you can't beat passion with anything.
All right. Thank you, Renee. We have time here for just one more question, so we'll go to Matt Douglas. Matt, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Take it away.
All right, thanks. My question is more for maybe for David and Jeanie, and thanks for taking the time today. Your current champion, Santana Garrett, is a second-generation, wrestler. Tessa Blanchard, third generation. How does that change the tempo through the rest of the WOW roster? Does that kind of elevate everyone and push everyone to step up?
It certainly elevates them, and as I mentioned earlier, with WOW, having an all-female training center, Tessa's already stepped up to assist our current trainer, Selena, and it's funny. Maybe she'll hear this. Selena's very kind at training and very hand-holding, and Tessa, being 23, is a drill sergeant, and they both have the same background trainer in George South out of the Carolinas. And yes, it steps up everyone's level, because they know that Santana is one of the best performers in that ring, and Tessa is also. And when they come to LA and they train and they get into the ring, they have a craftsmanship that only benefits everyone else. And Tessa, even at her young age of 23, is dedicated to becoming one of the best trainers in the sport and helping people become women wrestlers, because she said firsthand, there was nothing like WOW for me. She goes, I had to go and train with guys. And she goes, while that probably gave me a benefit at the end, she said it had a lot of disadvantages. And I saw women come to the training school, and because it was a guys' training school with guys teaching, I saw a lot of great female athletes walk out that door. It wasn't for them. They weren't nurtured. It wasn't for girls. And she says, I stuck it out, but I'm going to change the course of that. And that's why she stepped up and said, please, Let me become more in WOW than just a wrestler. Let me help train wrestlers. I want to change the industry. And I think we've got two of the best trainers in the country in Selena and Tessa, and they both bring something different to our wrestling school. So the answer to your question is firsthand, yes, their participation elevates our product.
Great, thanks so much. And just one more, I know we're out of time here. Who's the dark horse in WOW? Like if we sit down next Friday night and start watching, who's maybe a name we don't know that we should start paying attention to?
Princess Aussie. The beast is clear. You go to WOWE.com, our website, and look under the superheroes and see them, and you're going to clearly know the beast is a standout. You already know Jungle Girl's prowess. Jungle Girl walks on a plane, and everybody's head turns. When they look at her physique and her arms, women and men, even little kids, they just look and admire her physique. Princess Aussie is someone you should watch out for. She is a real athlete. I spoke of her before. She's the Australian that just moved here, and she's been sleeping literally on the floor at a friend's house to have her dream come true of being a woman wrestler, and we're making it happen. And it's exciting. So she's the dark horse, if you want, to the extent she's just starting, and she just started her career with us. And when you watch her in that ring and the moves she does jumping off the third rope, etc., I passed the torch this year of ring announcing because I guess it's like puberty. My voice is starting to crack. So I passed the torch, and I've been waiting to do it for years. We wanted to find the right person. Shaul Guerrero, the late Eddie Guerrero and Vicky's daughter, is the ring announcer for WOW. She is the new face and voice of women's wrestling. She's the best voice I've ever heard. She's fabulous. And Princess Aussie jumps and leaps off that rope and does the frog splash. When she did that, Shaul Guerrero cried because that's her dad's move. It was something else. So she's the one to watch.
And then, David, this is Andrew, and, I've been watching wrestling for 40-plus years, and, the one person, again, from a dark horse perspective that people won't be ready for, the mic work of Jessie Jones. Just watch out for Jessie Jones. She, her ability on the mic, her gimmick is to make wrestling great again, and I'll leave it there that you guys can figure out where that's going to head. But she finds heel heat quickly and has the fans turn on her, and she's here to make wrestling great again. And I think that her ability on the mic was unparalleled that night as well. So for people that you're not expecting, get ready for Jessie Jones.
Well, thank you all so much.
Of red caps that say "Make Wrestling Great Again," Jessie Jones.
That's right. So be ready.
Awesome. Well, as a longtime fan of over 30 years, thank you guys so much for bringing this up, and I'll be tuning in Friday night.
All right. Thank you for that, Matt, and thank you, Jeanie, Andrew, and David, for joining us here today. Appreciate all you in the media who are on the call still. We'll have the audio for this available later this afternoon, and I'll also send around information in case you need any photos or other media assets. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact Cindy or myself. And that will wrap it up for today. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the Wrestling Epicenter. For over 15 years, we've brought you the top names in professional wrestling for exclusive interviews. Everybody you see here has been interviewed by our site. But we're more than just interviews. So be sure and check out WrestlingEpicenter.com for news, results, information, and of course our store.
WrestlingEpicenter.com, your number one source for wrestling information.